I think anyone looking for a LA Confidential-esque think piece about the corruption in the LA Police Department and the um, the corruption that brought by organised crime had in the 1920s, I think you're in the wrong place when you go to see Gangster Squad. But that being said, if you are there for a cheesy action film with some quite smart dialogue and some really good performances, then I think you're in the right place. Because Gangster Squad follows the titular Gangster Squad, led by Josh Brolin, who is an ex-soldier who's just gotten back from the war, and he's trying to adjust to life in LA, but he realizes there's so much corruption there. He's not really sure if it's where he wants to start his family with his wife and a child that's just on the way. Um, and the film essentially follows him and as he tries to clear the streets of Mickey Cohen, a big-time gangster in LA, played by Sean Penn. And the film just r rolls along on this whip snap dialogue, and it's really smartly written. But its main problem is the fact that it has problems when it gets to the action. In that the dialogue's so good and you can't help but really enjoy these conversations. But as soon as the shooting starts, it kind of loses its flair because it's quite generic action. But and there's a car chase in there that it just doesn't feel like 1920s cinema. I mean, a depiction of the 1920s with a fast-paced car chase. I mean, it really doesn't ring true. So you're watching this scene and you think this isn't what I expected from this at all, and it really doesn't work. But that being said, the end action scene at a hotel is so well constructed that the rest of the action scenes really kind of suffer in the fact that this one's so good and the others are so bland and ordinary. But the film kind of makes its way on the performances, and Josh Brolin's a great lead, and he has this great supporting cast, and the best of all is Ryan Gosling, who really has been having a great time of late with the movies he's been doing. And I think he's so excellent in Gangster Squad. He plays this sort of smarmy police officer who doesn't want to get involved in the major issues, but is forced into it by something that happens about halfway through the film. But um, the thing that happens halfway through the film, I won't ruin it because it's quite a key part of the film, doesn't really feel like enough for this character to go up against the man, the Mickey Cohen. He he just it just doesn't seem like his fight. It never really seems like his fight until the very end when something else happens with the female character Emma Stone, and then it really feels like he's invested. But for the rest of it, while he's still involved, you don't really understand why he's involved. It doesn't really make much sense. I mean, everyone else in the Gangster Squad has at least a decent reason to be there. Some have the reason of for fun. I'm really not joking. I mean, Robert Patrick is pretty much there to shoot people, but and Michael Penner as well as his sort of Hispanic sidekick, which um, uh, which works oddly enough. And these two interact really nicely, and they're sort of like this gunslinging duo, and they're really quite cool. But I mean, you don't really understand why Ryan Gosling is in the fight, and the justification for why he gets more involved towards the end with Emma Stone also doesn't really ring all that true because uh, Emma Stone is a little bit miscast, I think, because she isn't really the conventional choice for a femme fatale. I mean, she's got the look of it, but she doesn't really have the mindset for it. She doesn't really get the character all that well, and I think that's a problem with this film, is that there's a couple of miscast roles, and I think Nick Nolte pops up for about 30 seconds, and he's supposed to be this hotshot police commissioner, but you never really get that. You get this bedraggled mess of a man, which I guess is quite clever in regards to the effect that organised crime and Mickey Cohen's having on this man, this commissioner, this guy who's trying to do things above board but creates this gangster squad to handle it illegally, essentially. But he doesn't really feel like he belongs, and I think the main reason why this film doesn't work in some regards is just the fact that there's a few miscast characters, and sometimes the plot points are a bit iffy. But if you're watching it for dialogue and acting and some pretty decent action, I mean, there's no action that's badly portrayed except for the car chase, because it's really murky and you can hardly see anything, and it really doesn't belong, and I really didn't like it. But I mean, everything else really works, and it's just one of these films you just have to sit back, relax, and sort of switch your mind off a little bit, because if you're trying to think about all the messages in it, it really doesn't work as a film because they just fall flat on their face. But I think if you're trying to watch this film just for a good old shoot 'em up and a pretty brutal beatdown at the end of the film between Josh Brolin and Sean Penn, um, I think you're really in for a treat. It's really is quite an entertaining little action film, and I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10.